Welcome back to this next video in the Unlocking Your Crypto Journey educational series. Today, we're going to be talking about online security and crypto security. And to do that, I brought in Jimmy Jim from Billy Goat Tales. So let's get into this video. Welcome back to this next video. We're going to be talking a little bit about security today. And I'll tell you, I think this is an important topic. And I brought Jimmy Jim back to help me discuss this. Welcome, Jim. Appreciate you being back here, bud.
How's it going, man? Good to be back and talk security.
You. Yes. Listen, I'm going to start out with this. It's not going to be an exhaustive list. I will have a link in the description for a list that will give you a bunch of additional resources that you can go and follow through, do your own homework, that kind of thing. But let's be honest. Most people don't even take care of the basic security stuff. I don't know why that is. I really don't. Any ideas or anything you'd like to postulate about that, Jim? Lead us into this.
Let's see. Laziness, convenience, those are probably the top two reasons. But yeah, I mean, like my mama always said, you take care of the little things, there won't be any big things to worry about in life. And that's true even in online security, right?
Yep.
Is taking care of the very basics, not even getting into any of the advanced things. We're talking the bare minimums today.
Right, exactly. That's what this is going to be. We're not going to be diving again. There'll be resources. Go ahead and, dive in, baby, dive in. But for today, we're going to hit a few key points and kind of hash them out a little bit. All right, Jim, let's kick this off. Let's start out with something that's probably been a security issue since the beginning of the internet, maybe. Password security. I'll tell you what, passwords have evolved. I mean, let's be honest, right? And how we control them, in theory, has evolved. And hopefully nobody out there right now is using 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 as their password. Why don't you dive into a little bit about that? Because given your background, I'm going to assume that you see varying levels of password security with people.
Well, yeah, I mean, you get in an enterprise environment, and those password requirements are going to be enforced, right? So having complex passwords, I would say at minimum probably 12 characters, which kind of leads to holy moly,
Yeah, how do you remember that for every website?
Exactly. And in our company, I mean, we do use password managers. They're fantastic. It will allow you to use, those complex passwords. It'll generate those complex passwords for you. Now, some people are like, well, I don't want to keep all my passwords in one place. And that's a good way of thinking. Some products have been breached before, the password storage software. My recommendation is to, use a password manager, but there is a master password, on your password manager. And if you're storing that password in a safe place, changing that password on a regular basis, which controls access to your passwords, that is a great way to, one, you could leverage up to an 18 character, password if you wanted at that point.
Wow.
A lot of them auto-populate for you. You go to ESPN, well, let's just say any Disney company, because they have a single sign-on set up for all of their entities, right? So my username and password is the same on ESPN and Disney and all the different things. I guess they own Fox now, so I don't ever go to a Fox website to test that theory, but I do know the ESPNs, the Disneys, ABC are all leveraging a single sign-on system. And I like password managers for that very reason. As long as you're being smart and managing your master password, changing it, and I would probably change it once or twice a month.
I was just going to ask that question.
That's what I do for mine. That's a great thing. When you get into 18 character password, it's going to take a minute for anyone to brute force that, especially if you're using special characters.
Right.
That adds a big time multiplier, to complexity, I should say.
Just to kind of try and give people some options, do you have any recommendations? Again, this is directed toward the newbies, maybe people who aren't so security minded, that they might be able to utilize and not, find themselves locked out of everything.
Right. I mean, you do have the built-in Google Password Manager, right? I don't store a lot of passwords in there. I do store some in there, but not a whole lot of them. I try to keep more personal related items in that, and then my password manager is more for my corporate stuff. However, I do have a lot of personal passwords in that software. The nice thing about the software that we use, which is LastPass, is that you can categorize, is this work or is it personal? And then LastPass also will, like I was saying before, will auto log you in. So if you're going to a website and it has a username and password stored for you, when you come to that login page, it'll auto
Just
populate and
boom.
log you in. So that, that's nice, but you still need to be very careful. I mean, LastPass has been breached before, but changing that master password on a regular basis, going twice a month, I would say, is really going to mitigate anyone actually getting into your information, your personal information.
Sounds good. All right. Well, let's move on to the next point that I wanted to make sure we talked about, and that's two-factor authentication. Again, something that's been around for a little while. I mean, most people who are watching this video right now are probably familiar with Google's 2FA, the numbers that show up on your phone, that kind of thing. There is also more advanced type of 2FA. I'm going to see if this will show up right here, like my YubiKey. I love YubiKey. It's like become my favorite favorite thing to use. Any thoughts about that, and or with if one is better than another, or you got a recommendation? By all means, throw it out there for the peeps.
Well, definitely for, 2FA, right? I mean, your password is, that's the front and the back door, right?
Yep.
And what good is it to lock the front and the back door if you're going to leave all the windows open? And that's what kind of,
That's a good way to put it. I like that.
no, and that's how we explain it to our clients too. 2FA, while it is adding another layer of security, 2FA can be captured and used against you. Case in point, if you receive, and we see this on a regular basis in our security operations center, to where a bad actor will send in a phishing email that looks like it's coming from Microsoft, like it's wanting you requested to reset your password.
Right.
And it'll have a button there that says, to reset your password, click here. And you click there, and a real Microsoft login pops up, and then a real 2FA shows up. But what's receiving that information is not legitimate,
Is
right? And
not
they
legit.
can capture your 2FA token. And if they have your 2FA token, then they can recreate your 2FA algorithm and be able to see the same codes you do. So,
Gotcha.
Yes, I mean, again, we lock the doors with our password. We're securing the windows, if you will, with 2FA, but glass can be broken, right? And we have to
True.
be careful with anytime we have that set up, is that, if we're receiving emails with links to past credentials, including MFA, that we're very keen to where we're going, hover over that
Yes.
button.
Yes.
Does it say Microsoft.com? Are you sure it says Microsoft.com? Because that's another thing bad actors like to do, is put one letter off,
Yes.
but
Yes.
two letters together. When you glance at it, it looks like the letter, but it's actually two letters.
Yep.
We see a lot of that, and this is on a daily basis, and we're looking at, 5,000 plus users across 100 different companies. Usually, if we see something happening here, it starts, it's pretty wild to see things propagate, the way they do,
Right.
especially if someone's doing a phishing campaign.
Yep,
It's
and
not
we're
going
going to
to,
go into that a little bit more
yeah,
further on. It's one of the other ones I have. But it's amazing to me that that is still such a successful way of breaching security.
well, it shouldn't be. It really, it shouldn't be. Anything, we can harden a company's network to Department of Defense levels, right?
Yep.
But it's the human factor. You know,
Exactly.
And that is all bad actors are looking to do, is find that unsuspecting user that's willing to give them information.
Yep.
Still to this day, 85% of hacks start with a social hack.
There you go.
Hey, I'm Jimmy from the IT department. I need your username and password so I can update your computer. And you just divulge that.
Right.
Bam. Now I'm in as you. Now I can sit back and watch emails flow. Now I can start charting out. Oh, okay. Well, she's in the finance department. Well, who runs the finance department? Well, I'm thumbing through emails, waiting for that email to come. Oh, now I see who the CFO is. How can I infiltrate that? It's really, really remedial actions, right? That kind of start this big snowball going downhill.
Yeah, it's kind of insidious, frankly, if you ask me. But yeah,
It is.
yeah.
It really is.
Well, again, we're going to touch on that a little bit more as we continue
Sure.
on here. But I want to go on to the next point. Now, again, this is meant, this security outlook here is not only, as the stuff we've talked about already is not crypto specific necessarily, but we're going to combine some crypto things. And with this next point in mind, wallet security. So we're talking about hot wallets, which are constantly connected to the internet. Now, whether that's in your browser, on your phone, pick a hot wallet, versus a cold wallet, which in theory is isolated from the internet or is only connected there for the idea of signing a transaction, that kind of thing. Any thoughts about, and obviously, you got to have good wallet security with backups and everything, Jim, but I mean, anything that jumps out to you there in your overall purview and knowledge that we should tell these new people coming in?
Well, I'm sure we've all seen it in hot wallets, right? I mean, you get a mysterious donation, to your wallet, a
Yes.
spam transaction. If you weren't expecting it, it was not a gift, right? It's
Right.
someone
Right.
opening the door to say, here, come into my demon lair so I can take everything you own, kind of scenario. When using hot wallets, I mean, that obviously, I mean, that's probably one of the biggest thing is watching out for those scam deposits or an NFT that pops into your wallet that
Yep.
says,
Yep.
click here. Those are all things I'm pretty sure we probably all have seen. Really, what's here? I mean, what more is there to say about that? If it's a long-term hold, yes, I mean, get it on the cold storage. If it's something that you're a trader and you trade every day and you're trading on decentralized exchanges, okay, well, that's fair. I mean, just don't
Sure.
keep any more in your
Sure.
wallet than you're willing to lose. No different than if you're actually buying into a project. You've got to apply that kind of same logic to it.
So can I ask a question? We were just talking about password managers a few minutes ago. Now, is a cryptocurrency wallet, whether it's hot, cold, whatever, something you might keep a password to on your password manager, or even the keys? Is that something you would commit to a password manager?
I probably wouldn't put my keys on a password manager or, my phrase. I probably would not store that. Yeah, I wouldn't want any of that information going beyond the safe. I
Yeah,
mean, that
no,
is,
I don't disagree. I just thought I would ask because again, this is your wheelhouse. So I'm sure you might have even seen issues with that with some of your clients or whatever. So that's why I thought I would ask the question, because I got to believe that some of these new people coming in might have that very question.
yeah, I mean, I think the best practice there is, use the cold storage wallet. If you choose, to keep your holdings on exchange, hopefully you're not in California because you're going to lose that crap after 3 years with this newest
Right,
thing they just passed. And
right.
and I get what they're trying to do. We talked about it this past week on our show, and at first, I said, I don't like it. I don't like the whole idea, right? But after I went and read about it a little bit more and really started to think that, okay, maybe for someone like myself, that's a no-brainer, but there's probably a lot of people out there in the world that they don't think like I do, and I guess it's good in practice. I don't like it, but it's also hard for me to be mad at it, because they are forcing people to exercise, good practice. And
Yes.
I mean, I can't be mad at that. I think 3 years is probably a little premature in my opinion. I think 10 years would be more digestible for me personally. But I mean, if you're trading, as I understand it, if you're trading on that exchange, you're not going to have any problems. It's going to be a dormant wallet for a period of 3 years. That's when they can do this reclaim. And I also understand it as it's no different than here in Texas. They came on the news, Texas unclaimed property, go out to this website, see if you got anything. Well, I went out there and sure enough, there was my name listed. State had $54. I was
Ah,
like, what is this from? Come to find out it was an old PayPal account,
oh, no
so
kidding.
I sent in all my information. Next thing you know, I get a check,
Wow.
so I mean, if it's going to operate like that, I don't have too much problem with it now, that I've really digested it. At first when I heard it, I was like, oh no, this is some
Yeah, it's
common crap,
being in the space. It kind of is just abrasive to hear. I had the
right.
same reaction. Yeah.
And I'm not a super maxi, when it comes to the crypto space and, centralized versus decentralized and, all of that kind of stuff. I mean, I try not to get in the weeds on that. I mean, I'm looking for good projects and versus bad projects.
Yep. Yep.
What are they doing? Who's running the company? Things like that. That matters more to me than centralized or decentralized.
All right. Facts. Facts. Okay, let's keep moving on because we got a few points to get to here. The next thing I had on the list was talking about having a good browser security, and a couple of points to that. One is, I mean, I'm sorry, use Google Chrome if I can avoid using Google Chrome. I don't use Microsoft Edge. I am pretty much strictly Brave browser. But even with that, there are, in my opinion, other points where people can get in with regard to a lot of these extensions that you put into your browser, that kind of thing. Anything you would like to throw out with regard to people thinking about security in their browsers?
Well, for one, we need to keep it updated. You
That's a
know,
good point.
Most importantly, if you get in a little pop-up, there's a new browser, click here to relaunch. I mean, you need to do that. That's clearly they have bugs that they have found. They're patching it, they're updating it, they're adding new functionality. That's just good practice. I would say kind of much like your wallets of any type for that matter, whether it's a cold wallet or a hot wallet, you connect to a website, you got to make sure you disconnect from it, and
That's a
not leave
good point.
the back channel open. And I
Yep.
would say the same thing for browser extensions. Pull up your extension manager, look through it. Is there stuff in there that one, you don't know what it is? Uninstall it.
Yep.
If you find out it's something you needed, you can reinstall it. It's not a big deal, right? But I do try to keep my browser extensions identifiable. I know exactly what they are, and to a minimum.
Yep, that makes good sense. I literally just did that about a week ago because it was like, wait a minute, what is this extension again? And then the next thing you know, I was down the rabbit hole of like, why have I got that? Why have I got that? Why have I got
Well,
that?
especially if it's an old piece of software, right? And a bad actor finds a vulnerability in it,
Yep,
and then now exploits that vulnerability, through a browser extension you don't even use. You just had it installed,
yep,
and now they're messing your life up.
exactly. Exactly. Perfect. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right, let's now again, I said we were going to touch on it again, the phishing scams, and you hit on a lot of the good things in that earlier conversation with, in the emails, check your links, verify the URLs. You quickly touched on the fact that a lot of it is social engineering. And maybe you could expand on that piece a little bit, because I got to believe people are smart enough to say, okay, yes, I know I shouldn't click on a link. They're going to try and get you to the point of clicking on that link. So maybe you want to expand on
Well,
that a little bit?
that's phishing emails is probably number one thing that we see coming through our security operations center. We just, I'd say recently, it was probably about 8 months ago, had a client, I'm sorry, not even a client, it was a vendor of a client pop up and told this client that they felt somebody, that these emails they were getting weren't valid. So of course the client calls us, we start doing research
Right.
and find that, well, there's only two accounts, in this entire tenant. There's only two email accounts in here. So it's not like someone got into your account and did something, or created another user or anything like that. So we started looking at the users and could clearly see that one of these users received exactly what I was talking about earlier, a Microsoft phishing email. He surrendered his credentials and his MFA. So now this bad actor was able to log in as him and wait for real emails to come through and inject himself into the conversation, and came about that far from wiring $7 million to the bad actor.
Oh, oh, oh. Okay, folks, there you go.
They had, I mean, they did everything. They did everything right as far as from a bad actor
From a
point of view,
hacker kind of point of
right?
view. Yeah, yeah.
They found the right person to get the credentials. That person was a calling a right hand man to the CFO of the company.
Oh,
There are protocols internally for the company, and this isn't our company. This is a different company.
mm-hmm.
Um, for wiring funds. One of which is to speak to someone, a known contact, right? So the bad actor started, I guess, understanding that that was part of the process, and basically in an email said, hey, I'll call you and we'll verify all this. So the bad actor ended up calling into this company and talking to, the person with their finger on the trigger to fire the money off, more or less. So as far as the employee was concerned, I talked to someone. Only
Yep.
problem was they didn't initiate the call. They received that call.
Right. Oh
Um,
man.
Another pretty snaky thing they did was, if you looked at the email, everything with the email address was perfect. Just when you opened up the email, you hover over the name, said the right name, said the right email address. Nothing looked too far out of place until you hit reply. And when you hit reply, that email address changed to a totally different email address, which was the bad actor's email. So what the bad actor was doing, basically, once he got into that account, he was able to set up a rule, in Outlook, in their email client, to say, hey, any email coming from Mr. CFO, move it to this person's deleted items, and then just forward me a copy to this arbitrary Gmail address, so that he was able to receive the email as it came in, copy and paste pertinent parts of that email into a new email that he came up with these different instructions, and send that to the end user. So the person's account that was compromised never knew
Yeah, you never
any of this was
even.
going on, because these messages were going to their junk folder. And I mean, unless you were paying attention to your junk items and like, oh, wait a minute, I only deleted 2 emails a day, not 10,
Yep.
you just didn't know. So, phishing emails, they're getting really, really crafty. They'll go out and get one little piece of information, your name. It can start with your name, and then they go out on LinkedIn. They figure out the company you're working for, and then they
Yep.
look at who your friends are in your friends list, and then now they can start saying, oh, okay, well, Sally works with Mr. CFO, and John, and this person does, and the next thing you know, they're drawing out your whole company
Yep.
structure, right? And then they know who they need to target, and they're coming up with really crafty ways to do it.
You don't
I
even
can't
think about it.
stress
You said,
enough. That's a huge thing.
yeah. No, you and the point that you said, because who wouldn't say, receiving a call that this looks legit, you've been in email contact with this, and then all of a sudden it's like, bam, bam.
Yeah, spoofing phone numbers is easy. You
Yes,
know, I mean,
yes,
right now, I mean, I could give you, here's my real phone number. You could call me on it. Then I could turn right back around and call you from a number
yes,
out of Washington. You know what
yes.
I mean? Spoofing phone numbers, spoofing email addresses. all of that, that's easy stuff to do,
Yep.
and it doesn't take swordfish, one guy in the room, he's got 10 monitors and he's
Yeah.
just going at it. No, I mean, these people are not doing this. And half the time, it's not even a human doing it. I mean,
Good point. Good
they
point.
have data harvesters on the dark web that, that's all they're looking to do. Give me first, middle, last name, give me some phone numbers, give me addresses, social security numbers, and then that's all they're worried about. I can compile these lists, I can put them out there on the dark web and sell them, right? And then the bad actor comes along and he's like, okay, well, I buy this list. Okay, well, now I got a list of targets. And then I go buy this little piece of software and that little piece of software that can exploit different things, right? So usually it's not a single person uh,
Right.
doing this from A to Z. It's compartmentalized bad actors, all kind of living within their own lines, doing their own bad actor thing, and then someone comes and plucks little pieces of data out of each one of their buckets, and then makes this into
Yeah. Pull it
a
together.
hack.
Mm, mm. And like I
It's
said,
nuts.
insidious. I said earlier, it's
Yeah,
insidious. It really is. And here's the thing: it's obviously profitable. Otherwise, they wouldn't be doing it.
absolutely it is, and it's easier to do than you think. I tell people too, as far as personal security type things, man, I mean, make sure you get an RF blocking wallet. I mean, it is so easy, to get a credit card number. Matter of fact, you already know the first digit of everyone's credit card that they have, depending on what type of card it is. I mean, if it's American Express, first number is going to be a three. If it's a Visa, it's going to be a four. If it's MasterCard, it's
Right.
going to be a five. If it's Discover, it's going to be a six. I mean, it's now they're only 13 digits away and they haven't even looked at your card. You're going through the self checkout line, you got your card there and you're flicking around with it. Someone
Yep.
behind you snaps a picture of it. I
Yep.
mean, it's those types of things that you got to think about because it's those little things that turn into a big thing.
Yep.
Um,
Agreed.
so I mean,
Agreed.
I keep all of my cards and everything in an RF or a RF blocking wallet. It works great. I mean, our card readers here at the office, if my card is in that wallet, and there's even a little bit of it sticking out, it'll kill that signal enough to where I can't just walk up to my wallet with my wallet and scan in. I actually have to hit the little button and kick that card out some, and then it'll scan and let me in.
Nice.
Um, and credit monitoring, that's another simple one.
Yep.
I've got ex-wives, so I monitor my credit all the time.
Yep.
But that's a great way. Keep that credit report locked. Make sure no one's out there, trying to get things in your name without you knowing.
Yep. No, that you're right. And it's simple, easy these days, to be able to do that. Super
Yeah,
simple, easy. All right, we're about halfway through,
yeah,
and let's keep moving on. The next point I wanted to make sure that people knew was to make sure that your devices are secure. Now, obviously, there's a couple of points here that make sense. We talked about passwords because we all,
mhm,
well, I don't know if we all, but a lot of people still use passwords with regard to their devices. And a couple of key points to me that a lot of people forget about because updates. You should always keep your OS updated. And I'll tell you what, I'm I'm one of them. I got to force myself to do that update because every time I do the update, something gets screwed up on the phone, on the whatever, it's just a pain. It's a pain. But you got to keep those updated. And the other piece, and this is, I'm hoping you'll talk a little bit about this, is the biometrics. I have
yes.
literally just started with biometrics. I've kind of avoided it like the plague. Might be my age. I don't know. But like, just make me feel better about it, Jim, please.
Well, I mean, biometrics is not a bad thing. I mean, we use biometrics here within our company, kind of going back to the password manager. When I get here in the mornings, I try to log into my password manager. I We have 2FA on the password manager. So not only am I having to put the password in to get into the password manager, then a separate third-party system sends me a biometric approval, thumb
Yep.
approval on my phone also. That to me is a better MFA in my opinion, because if someone's going to they need your hand. You know what I mean? They need you present in order to pass those credentials, as opposed to you went to a bad phishing website and all they need is a 6-digit number,
Yep.
maybe an 8-digit number. It's easily or more easily attainable than using the biometrics. But I mean, the facial recognition, the thumbprint, all of that. I mean, I use every bit of that. Absolutely.
Okay. Now, I'm going to ask, because again, not what I've been doing. So I know you got like facial recognition option, you got thumb options, that kind of thing. Do you use one over the other? Do you combine them? How do you do that?
Anything financial is usually going to be biometric, in my life. If it's something that banks, crypto exchanges, any of that type of stuff, absolutely biometric. That means,
Biometric.
someone's going to have me at gunpoint or something and telling me to put my thumb
Right.
down in order to get into that stuff, which I've got much bigger issues at that point if that's
Amen.
the scenario, right?
Amen.
Um,
Facts.
but as far as, the keeping the OS up to date, imperative, that is the way, the easiest way to keep yourself safe. As a second layer, especially on your PCs, some flavor of antivirus,
Yes.
ideally EDR, endpoint detection and response, which is AV on steroids, if you will, usually incorporates AI into the software itself to identify, malicious items on a computer, keeping everything up to date. I mean, that literally is the most basic thing you can do. And yes, it is a pain. But,
Yeah.
when I get my phone pops up with an update, if I'm not doing it right there on the spot, like if I'm driving, yeah, do it, because I'm not going to be on my phone driving.
Yep.
If it does it at night, I will postpone it and then I'll say, schedule it for 3 a.m.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
That's
just
what I've been
do
doing.
those things while do those things while I sleep. As far as, you were saying updates, screw things up. I want to say Windows 10, there were a few in Windows 10, but it's not like Windows 2008s or any operating system before Windows 10. Windows 10, the way Microsoft handles updates is completely different than it was in the past, right? In the past, it was here, we have an update, push that crap out to everybody. Now you have a couple of different paths that you can go down. One path is that same old path. As soon as it comes, just give it to me.
Yep.
I don't care. The second path is we wait until it's proven that the patch is good, kind of scenario. I guess that's really the easiest layman's terms to put it in, is you can get it day one, but it might change from day one to day 60, right? So in your updates, you can tell it, golly, I'm trying to think of the name that they came up with a name for that path now. But essentially, it's not updating everything right at the moment. It's updating it after it's been kind of proven.
Kind of battle tested. Yeah.
Right. And if you use that path, which by default, that is the path, really updating your computer should not be an issue. Typically updating computers and not really screwing things up. I'm not going to say it's a thing of the past, but has been greatly reduced.
No, that is true. It is less, but I still find like with certain things, like especially VPN services, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that kind of thing, it will hiccup. I guess that's the best word I can use. Hiccup.
Sure. Well, anytime you update or change software, I mean, there can be problems that come about.
Yeah.
But I'm more speaking to, Windows updates
Yes.
specifically.
Yes. Yes.
Maybe not so much Android and iPhone type stuff, but in the Microsoft operating system world, it's kind of a thing of the past. I mean, the Windows 10 and Windows 11 were probably the first time in 20 years you heard IT people go, yeah, that's a pretty good operating system. Everything previous, was,
It was just like, yeah.
it is what it is. I mean, compared to what it is now, it was trash,
Yep. And that's
But,
what they'll be saying in the future about this. So
I'm sure they will. I'm sure they will.
speaking of VPNs, that's basically the next point on the list here. I'm an advocate, always have been, for having a VPN. I know originally in the crypto space, it was have a VPN so you can use this exchange because you can't get it
Sure.
here in the US or whatever. But to me, it's more of a nobody should be knowing what the holy hell I'm doing online. It's that simple. So I should be able to have that kind of protection. And for those who have followed me for a long time, I used to use and promote TorGuard VPN. Still, I think a good VPN service, but I have gone to a DPN with deeper network from right here within the crypto space. So if you're looking for more information on that, I'll put links in the description so you can go and check all that out. But what's your thought process with regard to VPN services and people, just the average Joe even using a VPN?
Well, I mean, a VPN is definitely, going to keep things private to a certain degree for you, right? And what I mean by that is, well, anybody at that VPN company, they're going to know what IP you're connecting from. They can see where you're going, but, to the 99.9% of the population, no, they won't. All of that is going to be masked. I am a big fan of using VPNs, whether you're just doing regular surfing or whether you're transacting crypto or anything. It's a privacy thing. And if Mind Your Biz was here, I guarantee you he will say the exact same thing. He's a big privacy guy. I don't necessarily go to the extent that he does, getting a new Android phone, completely wiping it,
Yeah,
putting
yeah.
in a non-polluted operating. I mean, I don't go that far, but I do like to practice basic good habits, no matter where I'm at, especially if I'm in airports or anything like that.
Oh,
People can
yeah.
just go in
That's
the
funny. We're
airport,
going to
hang
talk
out.
open Wi-Fi in a minute. That's awesome.
Oh
Yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
yes. Not a bad thing. They're super cheap. Now, if you're putting that on your work computer, you can have some issues there if you have a corporate VPN. The company you work for may not want it there, but I'm saying on your personal devices,
Yeah.
absolutely, I would be using that to its fullest extent. Now, it will prevent you from going to certain websites,
I
or
was
certain
just going to
websites
bring
won't
that up.
won't work right per se, and that's because I mean, there is a known set of VPN IP addresses. I mean, it's not a secret by
Right.
any means, So, some companies will just say, hey, if it's coming from this subnet block, don't allow access to the website. We want anybody coming here. We want to know who
Yeah.
who who that is.
Who are they? Yeah. And honestly, that's part of why I have gone to the whole DPN situation. I haven't run into that with that deeper network node going forward here at this point. But yes, and that's what kind of threw me over the edge with TorGuard, was like everything was starting to get blocked, and so on and so forth. So it was like, so I'm glad you brought that up. Thank you. Thank you.
Yes, yeah. I mean, it's a minor hurdle to jump. I mean, you can just disconnect from your VPN and continue to the
Right.
site
Right.
99% of the time,
Yeah.
So, but if you're not at that site, I'm turning it back on and, going about my day anonymously.
Yep, facts. All right. Well, we kind of touched on it just a second ago. Avoiding public Wi-Fi, and man, I'd say story time. That got me. It got me. A hospital Wi-Fi. I was there taking care of some family issues, and I was like, man, I need to get some work done like right this second. And boy, that was the worst thing I ever did. Worst thing I ever did. Almost put me over the edge. But anyway, uh, talk about that, because I got to believe that even for like some of your clients, you probably run into the issues because of public Wi-Fi. No?
Well, as if you're going to be using public Wi-Fi, you should just be aware what if I'm at the airport and I'm flipping through TikTok, let's say, I'm not as concerned with it as if I was trying to make a Bitcoin trade
Yeah,
or
yeah,
do something in my bank account, or any and all of that. I'm not a big fan of public Wi-Fi. I mean, I will only use it literally. If there's, I can't get a signal, I don't have my
yeah. There's no
hotspot,
other
I
choice.
mean, I've got many of different ways I'm all about being self-sustaining, so even when me and my son go to card shows, I can tell them I want power at my table, and they're going to charge me $50 for the weekend. I'm like, no, so I just gotta big
Yep.
solar generator battery. Essentially, I bring that to all my shows. I'm self-sustained. I don't need your electricity. I'll bring my own.
Gotcha.
So I'm all about being self-sustained and not relying on public Wi-Fi unless it's just absolutely necessary. And then if I do go on that public Wi-Fi, you can bet the VPN's coming on too.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay, enough said with the public Wi-Fi. Now we've got about 5 more points to go over right now, and this next one is pretty simple. Hopefully, it's why you're here watching this video. Educate yourself on this stuff. Now, I get it. This is geared a bit more toward like the crypto space, but a lot of what we've discussed today is just good general online security, and we got a couple more things we're going to touch on. But I mean, if people have no clue, what would you say, or what suggestions would you give to maybe start them down the knowledge road with regard to online security?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of good AI out there,
Oh,
and
good point.
just prompting the AI in the correct manner. What are the best practices as an individual for my personal finances or my crypto holdings, or whatever it is you're trying to secure? You're going to get good results from that. I mean, all of the things that we talked about today are remedial. You probably heard it a million times, and we run into this with our client. Oh, we don't need cybersecurity. We don't deal with a whole bunch of money. It's like, okay, folks.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
not. Yeah.
if you're not going to take your security seriously, how do you expect us to? They don't care how much money you have. They just care you have it
Yep.
and they want it.
Yeah.
And in some cases, they don't even want necessarily your money. They want you to go get them some Bitcoin. And if not, they're going to wreck your whole company. So, that's hard to put your price tag on. I mean, some people say, oh, well, we have cyber insurance. Well, coverage up to, $1 million, $2 million, whatever it might be. Well, average payout is usually about 250,000 on cybersecurity insurance. It's not all that it's cracked up to be. A lot of companies require you to have it, to even do business with you. They want to
Right.
see. I mean, I get questionnaires, 10, 12-page questionnaires of people asking a gazillion different questions about our IT and cybersecurity posture. And if they don't like what you put on there, conversations pretty much end right there. So you got to, dot the I's, cross the T's, no matter how remedial it is. Again, we take care of the small things. There's not going to be big things to worry about. And if you're just going to disregard all of that,
Yeah, you're
then
just
you
asking.
kind
Yeah.
of deserve what you get.
Yep. Facts. Facts. All right. These last few are more crypto related, and we're going to kind of zip through these here a little bit because
Okay.
hopefully, as you're coming into the space, these all make a lot of good sense. The next one is using a reputable exchange. Now, again, for most people just coming into the cryptocurrency space, you're probably utilizing a centralized cryptocurrency exchange, and I'll put links to all the videos explaining that, giving you the ideas on which ones are more reputable than others, etc., in the description. But for those in the US, just to throw out a few, we're talking stuff like Coinbase, Kraken, Gemini, just to name a few. Any thoughts you want to put out with regard to new people coming in, making sure that they're utilizing a reputable exchange, Jim?
Well, I'm a big fan of Coinbase. I do use Kraken. I like Coinbase. Well, I have a love-hate relationship. I think everybody does with Coinbase, but
Yeah,
the
exactly.
the Coinbase One program is great for me. I do have a fair amount of holdings on exchanges. They insure your holdings up to $1 million against hacks. Of course, that doesn't do a damn thing for you if the exchange goes under.
Yep.
However, with Coinbase, I sleep pretty good. It's a public traded company. There's tons of information that they have to make available. I'm not too concerned with those guys. That is my primary exchange that I do use, but I do use Coinbase One for one. Usually the purchases I'm making, there's some pretty hefty fees associated with them, and getting those either reduced to zero or knocked down dramatically
Yep. Yep.
is attractive to me. But there's a lot of good exchanges out there, and it's just again the practicing that basic security posture. not clicking links in the emails. And I don't care if it came from Kraken or Coinbase. You know, if they're telling you your password has been reset, click here to verify kind of thing, then I'm going to look at that email and go, okay, I'm going to go straight to the source. I'm going to open up a browser. I'm going to go to Coinbase because if they're
Yes.
sending me an email, there's
Yes.
going to be something in my account stating the
That's gonna
exact same
pop
thing,
right up there. Yep.
right?
And
So, you know,
for the most part, these guys don't reach out to you for stuff like that. I mean, or at least that hasn't been my experience.
right, right. So, and if it's just something I can't figure out, then I'm picking up the phone. I'm going to call. You
Yep.
know,
Yep.
it just seems like people are so afraid to pick up the phone and talk to people nowadays. It's ridiculous.
It's
But
so true. It's so
if
true.
if I have some type of concern or if I get some type of notification, one or two things, I'm logging right into the website. There it is in red. Oh yeah, you know,
Yep.
I need to XYZ, whatever that is. If I log my account and I don't see that, and then the email itself is concerning, you know,
Yeah.
um, then I'm going to pick up the phone and call them and just say, what the hell is this? You know,
Yeah, what's this about? Now,
right?
just for the people who might be outside of the US, a lot of these other exchanges that are relatively good sized exchanges will, or I've noticed recently, I've been doing a lot of proof of reserve. So they get an independent third party audit. How do you feel about that with regard to people who might be outside the US, Jim?
How to say this? I've seen companies cook books.
Oh, amen. That's why I'm asking the question. So,
You know, that's a tough one. Again, I would have to go look at the exchange, who's running it, who's at the helm.
who's
I
the
don't
third
get caught
party?
up in the hype of a lot of things. People online, oh, XYZ is awesome. Okay, well, why?
Yep.
Why is it awesome? I mean, you're just saying it's awesome. Why, I don't get caught up in that hype. Oh, this project is great. Okay, well, who's running it? Well, I don't know. Well, how can you say it's great if you got
If you
some ding
don't know.
dong at the helm? So, I'm all about, do your own research, dive deeper. I mean, it's not like you have to be a business major to, Google who's running the company,
Yep.
or where they've been. Have they been successful? Have they not? I factor in a lot of things like that when I'm looking at, even if it's a crypto project. That's
Oh, that's a
usually
good
one of the first
idea.
things I'm looking at. White paper look good? Well, yeah. Does it fix a problem? Yeah. Who's running it? That's kind of my first three questions that I'm asking myself.
Yep. No, I I mean, to me, that's just smart. That's just being smart with your money.
Well, I mean, if you get caught up in the echo chamber of crypto YouTube, which that's kind of what
That's
it
easy to
is,
do.
it's very, very, very easy to do. And especially even with the great relationship I have with Sin City Crypto, if Dave is out there saying something's great, something's great, something's great, I'm going to, okay, well, this has come from Dave. It holds a little weight, but I'm still
Yeah,
going to
yeah, of
go
course.
ask the three questions,
Right.
and make an educated decision for myself.
Facts. All right. Well, the next point to that is to diversify your holdings. Now, I mean, I'm sorry. Grandma told you don't put all your eggs in one basket, or at least you should have. You know what I'm saying? So this only makes like common sense to me. Anything you want to add to that? I mean, because to me, this point is just like common sense, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean, it should be common sense. I mean, if I had $1 million, I'd have at least four accounts, 250 in each account. While losing 250 on any given day would absolutely suck,
Yes.
it does suck a lot less than losing a million.
Then taking you all down.
So
Yeah.
as far as whether it's just storing your crypto or pushing back from the table and looking at your portfolio, I mean,
Yep.
if you're all in on crypto, look, I mean, I get it, right? The most amount of gains are going to be made in crypto. Guess what? The most amount of losses are going to be made in crypto also. So
Yep.
people ask me all the time, why aren't you just all in on crypto? And I'm like, well, one, I'm not dumb. 20% of your holdings, in my opinion, should for sure be in some type of a blue chip level, whether it be a stock or a crypto. Top 20 cryptos, the blue chip stocks. I mean, I would definitely diversify and put that in there. So I've got a 401k. I'm doing I only do a 4%. That's company match. All right. That's dumb not to take advantage of, right?
Yeah,
I'm
of
doubling
course.
my money every month,
Yep.
as far as what I'm taking out of my pocket and putting in. And then secondly, I have an iTrust account. All right. I try to max that out early as possible in the year, which I think it's 8 grand or 8,500 maybe. I try to max that thing out because then everything I do in there is tax free. I do not have to worry about that. Now that we're in the bull run, I've reduced my stock holdings and have moved a lot of that into crypto. But when the bear market comes and I sell out, then that money gets moved over to either a stock backed IRA or just, straight into the stock market for the bear market, and make the money there. And then kind of repeat the process, right? I'm always putting money in all four of those different areas at different risk levels in each
Yep.
one of those silos, right? And that way, it just kind of doesn't matter what happens in the world. I'm not tied to YouTube every day trying to see, why did Bitcoin drop? I don't know, what did it drop to today?
Right.
109 from 100. Why did it lose 2 grand today?
Yeah. Or losing
I
sleep
just
every
don't
time you got to
care.
check coin market cap. Yeah. Yeah. No, I'm with
Yeah,
you.
I just don't care, because I'm diversified. And it doesn't matter what the hell happens.
Yep.
I mean, I can honestly say that I have completely, and a lot of this is due to being in crypto, right? I mean, I'm like, when it comes to investing, I am freaking dead inside. I have zero connection to the money that I put into any market. As far as I'm concerned, that money is gone the second I buy whatever I'm buying,
Whatever it is you're buying.
whether
Yep.
it's a stock or crypto or any of that.
Yep.
I just plan on never seeing that money again, and I just let it soak. And letting it soak for a couple of years,
Mm-hmm.
you're gonna double your money if you start at the bottom.
Yep.
And that's a tough thing mentally for people to flip that switch.
Oh, heck
When
yeah.
there's blood in the streets, buy it up.
Yep.
When there's green candles, sell.
And
It's counterintuitive.
exactly. And it kind of leads into the next point where you're saying, okay, go let it soak. But by the same token, you do need to at least monitor your
Sure.
accounts for again, we've been talking a lot of security stuff, so for suspicious activity, etc. And I mean, how do you balance that? I guess maybe is a good segue between those 2 points, Jim.
Well, the alert, I mean, I have alerts set up in Coinbase. So anything significant that moves in Coinbase, I get a text message and an email, right?
Nice.
That way I don't have to keep looking at it. Because now we're getting to that stage of the bull market where you will find me less and less in daily crypto shows because I don't want to hear it.
Yep.
I
Yep.
don't want to be in the echo chamber. I want to be pushed back from the table, not being guided down any particular road. I'm focused on the opportunities for me and not what the hell everybody else is doing. If I miss one, I miss one. I'm not
Yep.
emotionally, I'm not going to beat myself up about that. You know why? Because tomorrow there's going to be another. And the next day after that, there's going to be another. The way the crypto market is growing from 14,000 to in the millions at this point of different, crypto projects out there. I just I don't get caught up in that hype.
And that's probably wise. That's probably wise. And quite frankly, less stressful at the end of the day.
No, I mean it is. I mean, shit. I mean, my portfolio has, I would say, over the last 3 to 4 months. I mean, there's been a $350,000 swing. And watching that, from the beginning of the year dwindle way down, after March, and to continue buying confidently. Not once was I like, oh man, I don't know if this is a good move or not. It was
Right.
like blood in the streets. I'm like a shark. I mean, I'm swimming to the blood. And that's how you build that wealth. I mean, if you if you're in your 20s, if you're in your 30s, for that matter, if you're in your early 40s and you end up round tripping this bull cycle, so in 4 more years, guess what? We're going to do it again.
Yep.
There was a lot of questions coming into this year is, hey, is it gonna be the same? Well, it has started the same. Action has more or less started. It's rhymed with all the previous markets. How it finishes is what I'm really interested in.
Well,
And, I'm still in the boat that I think this is the super cycle. I think it's going to run a whole lot longer than maybe what most creators are out there telling you. I do believe this is going to go into 26
Okay.
and go a ways into 26. There's just so much money sitting on the sidelines and so many changes taking place that there is going to come, and we're rapidly approaching where those two vectors are going to cross, and supply shock is going to be a real thing every day. Not
Yes.
just, oh, someone bought a whole bunch, or oh, the ETFs are eating up what the miners produce for a day, or more than what the miners
More
are
than, yeah.
producing. So that's significant. That little tidbit, a lot of people didn't put a ton of focus on that. But here over the last year, I mean, there's been a couple of times where that has occurred. And when it becomes a constant, man, the market is going to go nuts. I mean, I think here in a couple of weeks, they're going to lower interest rates.
Oh,
Some
I
of that
agree.
is probably, baked in already. But
Yep.
man, everyone's thinking 0.25. If they come in at a point 0.5, I think the market's going to go nuts.
Yep.
I think the market's still going to go nuts to some level, to some degree, with a 0.25 interest rate cut.
Yeah.
So I'm so interested to see how this market finishes, because I think it's going to set precedents for the future markets to come, or the
I,
future bull runs or cycles, however you want to look at it, because there always will be a 4-year cycle. Now, will the price action match from year to year? Probably not. The rate of diminishing returns, but
right.
the more and more people that do come in, and then hopefully we get some regulation around, the shit coins. I'd really, really like to see that. I'm just not a fan of that. It's such a shit way to do business, in my opinion. Period. Build up a bunch of hype, release something that ain't worth shit, wait for the
Yep.
price to jump up, and then just dump it on everybody. I
Yeah.
mean,
That's been the theme for 2025 for sure. Uh,
yeah, and
uh,
I just don't play in that sandbox.
I understand.
Give me slow and steady, give me moderately aggressive. I'll play in those sandboxes.
Yep.
But I'm gonna do it smartly. I'm not gonna all in on any one project. I'm not gonna all in on meme coins. I wish I had twice as much Bitcoin as I do right now. For that matter,
For sure.
Ethereum.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Ethereum's
I
been
was
on fire.
fortunate enough to build up to damn near 64 Ethereum, and I'm like, man, I was buying all those altcoins. I could have been buying Ethereum at 12, 1400 bucks. It's kind of making me regret it a little bit, but we saw. I mean, when ETH moved, everything moved.
Yep.
Anything that
No.
was a ETH token,
Yeah. No, facts. Facts.
and
And
I forgot how much. When ETH makes those big moves, just how much it affects all of those altcoins that run on
a
Ethereum.
lot of the
From the
yes.
last bull run, I'd kind of forgotten that, and then man, this last little tear, and I wake up and I'm like, holy crap,
Yep.
what's going on? And it's like, oh well, ETH's just up, a few $100, but it also brought a third of the crypto market
Yeah, I was
up
gonna
with it
say, yeah, it
also.
dragged everything with it. Yeah. To that point, I mean, your portfolio, whatever it is, your portfolio, my portfolio, everybody's portfolio, no matter what it is, needs to be protected. And I'm going to just move into this next point. I know we kind of have touched on it in general with not putting all your eggs in one basket. But like you mentioned, I mean, you mentioned different age groups there, and in those different age groups, hopefully they're thinking about holding for the long term, hodl, as they say, right? If that's the case, obviously, again, we've touched on you should probably be using a cold storage wallet. But even to the point of El Salvador, we've seen recently start to diversify all their holdings into multiple cold storage wallets. How do you feel, or any input you want to add about that? Because having multiple cold storage wallets, I think, is a good option just for general security. Never mind why El Salvador did it.
Yeah, no, I mean it is. That's 12 or 24 more words that you have to keep up with. If my ledger gets destroyed and I have my seed phrase, I mean, I'm going to get all my crypto back, so
Right.
I'm not really worried about that. But if for some reason someone got a hold of my seed phrase, well, that's bad news. diversifying anything, in my opinion, is not a bad thing, right?
Yeah, ever. Yeah.
But it does get to a point where it's just overkill, in my opinion.
Okay.
I mean, if you can distribute, I mean, having a couple of cold wallets, maybe, this is my never sell Bitcoin wallet. This is my maybe active trading wallet, but I just have a lot of funds to trade with. I mean, having all of that diversified, I mean, I'd never really be mad at someone for doing that, right? I mean, that does fall into our basic security practices, don't put all your eggs in one basket scenario. But I do believe, once you get up, well, I got four, I got five, and okay, what do we got a wallet per crypto you own? At some point it just becomes overkill, but having three max of anything, three exchange accounts, keeping my money spread out there, I've got three bank accounts. I keep money spread across, those three for insurance, right? I mean,
Yeah, yeah.
the bank goes under or anything like that. So I'll never get mad at anybody, but you're definitely creating some extra layers that you have to be, worried
Yep.
about for yourself.
Okay, great, appreciate that. All right, the last point on this, and we're gonna get through it. I think is really important because we've seen, and I've reported on it many times on my channel, what is an increasing level of wrench attacks, as they say here in the space. And I believe that people like you and I are in with this group that are potential targets, regardless of us, not really saying what our crypto holdings are, putting it out there, which is this point, you shouldn't put that stuff out there, but also to the point of founders of projects, people working at exchanges, I mean, you name it. And again, not just them, but their families. Maybe Jim, touch on that a little bit, and we'll wrap this thing up on that note.
Yeah, I mean, keeping your business is never a bad idea. Between my company, Billy Goat Tales, and now our new card breaking channel, I'm on camera a lot. I run my mouth a lot. And I, there's personal things I divulge all the time that I just lose zero sleep over because I'm practicing these best practices every day. They're habit for me now. I don't mind telling the world, that I've achieved almost, 60 some odd ETH. I mean, I just don't have a problem with it. I roll dirty all the time. I've got personal protection on me at all times in my
Yep.
vehicles, at my
Yep.
house, and I am not afraid to use that stuff. So, I mean, if someone showed up wanting smoke, I got as much as they want. But I mean, in good sense. I mean, I wouldn't go out and say, "Hey, my bank account has
Yeah,
X
yeah,
number of
yeah,
dollars in it," or
yeah.
put any unnecessary information out there. And that's like no different than before you go on vacation. Getting on Facebook and telling, "Hey, we're going out of town for a week." It's like,
Yes, yes,
you
yes.
know,
Facts. And for everybody, this is something that BC Pork Corp and I actually talked about in a hot of the line episode. I'm going to put links to that in the description as well as some spreadsheets we put together that give you some key personal safety points. So go ahead and check those out on your own, and hopefully you can kind of get your not just online security level, but your physical security level up to snuff. And that's going to do it for this particular episode. Jim, I really appreciate you taking the time. I know you are a busy man. Is there any last thoughts you want to put out there before we end this video?
no, I mean, I think everything we talked about today, I mean, if you're not doing it, figure out a way to do it. Having a password manager to manage passwords, diversifying where you're holding your money, your crypto, is it on an exchange? I mean, all of these things, I mean, if you just do them, you'll probably not have any problems whatsoever. If you're getting emails, question every single email. Even if it looks like it's something security related, log into
Yep.
your account. Don't click the email. Don't go to the link supplied to you in the email. Go on your own, open a web browser, go into your account. Is there a message in there? No. Can you make sense of it? No. Pick up the phone, call
Yep.
them, and verify. Question everything.
I agree. All right, that's all good advice to wrap this thing up. And Jim, again, thank you for being here.
Thank you for
Guys,
having me.
I'm hoping to bring Jim back again in a future video, but thanks again, Jim. Appreciate you.
I'm here for you, man. Just let us know.
So what did you think about all that great information? I have put links again to a lot of additional information in the description. Make sure you go check that out. And of course, make sure you're following Jimmy Jim and Billy Goat Tales. All right, the education is going to continue. And in order to do that, head on over to this video and I will see you there.